depending on where you are listening or watching from. Today is another wonderful day to tell a wonderful story, and I'll be starting with a topic that says the greatest danger is believing that nothing can happen to you. Some people think that because they have money, they own the world. They think every man has a price and every spirit can be bought. They believe that bad luck is only for the poor and that their wealth is a shield that can protect them from anything. But life does not care about your bank account, and the forest does not respect your currency. Okonkwo was the richest businessman in the entire district. He lived in the city, drove the biggest cars, and wore coat chains that could feed a village for a year. He didn't go to school, but he was incredibly smart in business. He believed money could solve any problem. One day, Okonkwo decided to build a massive ultra-modern hotel, but he didn't want to build it in the city. He wanted to build it in home village, right at the edge of the forbidden evil forest named the Bush of Whispers. The village elders shook with fear when he showed them the land map. Okonkwo, please, the oldest chief begged, his hands trembling. Do not clear that part of the land. That is where the ancient spirits rest. For 300 years, no human has cut down a single tree there. If you disturb them, they will come for blood. Okonkwo threw a heavy bag of cash onto the wooden table. It made a loud, greedy thud. He laughed, spitting his expensive drink on the floor. Spirits, in this modern world, Chief, take this money and buy yourself new teeth. Money is the only god that rules this life. I have security guards with guns. I have connections. Nothing can happen to me. The next day, Okonkwo brought giant yellow bulldozers. The operators were scared, but Okonkwo paid them triple their salary. As the machines began to tear down the ancient massive Iroko trees, something strange happened. The trees didn't bleed sap, they bled a thick, dark red liquid that smelled like roasted iron. The birds flying out of the forest weren't singing, they were screaming like terrified women. The villagers packed their bags and fled to the neighboring towns. They knew what was coming, but Okonkwo stayed in his temporary mansion right next to the construction site. He sat on his balcony, drinking wine, watching the forest fall. Look at them running, Okonkwo mocked. Fear is for the poor. As long as you have money, nothing can touch you, he said. The forest was completely cleared by nightfall. The land was flat, covered in dead, bleeding wood. At midnight, the generator powering Okonkwo's mansion suddenly died. The heavy air conditioner stopped humming. The entire village became deadly quiet. Okonkwo called his armed Okonkwo called his armed security guards on his walkie-talkie. Hey, why is the power out? Fix it immediately. All he heard through the walkie-talkie was static. Shh, shh, shh. Then a voice came through the radio. It wasn't his guards. It was the sound of many people breathing heavily, right into the microphone. Then a soft, wet voice whispered, the trees are gone, Okonkwo. Where do you want us to sleep now? Okonkwo dropped the radio. His heart jumped, but his pride quietly replaced his fear. Who is playing prank? I will fire all of you tomorrow, he yelled into the dark house. He grabbed his heavy flashlight and walked downstairs. When he opened his front door to check on his guards, he froze. The three security guards were sitting on their chairs, but their heads were turned completely backward, facing their own spines. Their eyes were wide open, staring at nothing. Their guns were melted into pools of liquid metal on the ground. Okonkwo's breath itched. For the first time in his life, he realized his money couldn't help him. He turned around to run back inside and lock the door, but when he turned, his house was gone. He wasn't standing in his compound anymore. He was standing in the middle of a dark, endless forest. The very forest he had cut down that night was standing perfectly tall around him, but the trees were black and their leaves were made of sharp cutting metal. The ground beneath his feet began to soften like quicksand. He tried to run, but his legs were stuck in thick black mud. From the shadows of the black trees, figures began to emerge. They were tall, skeletal entities with skin like burnt wood. They didn't have feet. They floated above the mud. Okonkwo reached into his pocket. He pulled out bundles of dollar bills and threw them at the spirit. Take it! Take everything! I have money in the bank. Just let me go. He screamed, crying like a baby. The spirit didn't look at the money. One of them floated closer. It touched Okonkwo's gold chain, and the gold instantly turned into a living, venomous snake that wrapped tightly around Okonkwo's neck, choking him. You think your papers can buy the earth? The leaders of the spirit whispered, its breath smelling like fresh grapes. Your greatest mistake was believing your wealth made you different from the dead. You are just meat, Okonkwo, and the ground is hungry. The spirit didn't kill him instantly. They began to pull his body apart limb by limb, planting his arms and legs into the mud like seed. They turned his body into the new foundation for the forest he tried to destroy. The next day, the construction engineers arrived from the city. They found Okonkwo's mansion completely untouched. The generator was working fine, but Okonkwo and his guards were nowhere to be found. When the engineers walked into the cleared land where the hotel was supposed to be built, they stopped in absolute horror. In the exact center of the empty land, a single massive Irogo tree had grown overnight. It was huge, as if it had been there for 1,000 years. But the bark of the tree looked exactly like human skin, and right in the middle of the tree trunk, trapped inside the wood, was Okonkwo's face. His eyes were wide open, filled with tears, and his mouth was frozen in a permanent scream of agony. The workers could literally hear the tree crying from the inside. Nobody ever touched that land again. Today, the hotel project is abandoned, and the forest had grown back, thicker and darker than before. So, guys, listen to me very carefully. Life is not about how much money you have, how many connections you hold, or how powerful you think you are. The greatest danger in this world is believing that your status makes you untouchable. When you look down on the laws of nature, when you disrespect the warnings of the elders because you think you are too big to fail, you are setting a trap for your own soul. Nature and the spiritual world do not accept bribes. Never let your success make you arrogant, because the higher you climb in pride, the more painful your fall will be. Be humble, respect boundaries, and remember that we are all just guests on this earth. And that is the end of the story, guys. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Hey, Kota Shake. Hey, what's up? Well. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right, guys. So we are moving quickly to the next story. I titled the next story "Character Matters When Nobody is Watching." In the daytime, everyone can wear a mask. A man can smile, give charity to the poor, and greet the elders with respect. The village will praise him and call him a saint. But who are you when the doors are locked? Who are you when the night falls and you think nobody is looking at you? You see, human beings forget that the dark is not empty. The shadows have eyes, and if your goodness is only an act for the public, the dark will eventually expose your true face. In the village of Oji, everyone loved Neka. She was beautiful, soft spoken, and sang in the community choir. If an old woman was carrying a heavy basket of yams, Neka would run to help her. If a child was crying, Neka would give them sweets. The villagers always told their daughters, "Be like Neka. She has a pure heart." Neka lived alone in a small mud brick house at the edge of the village because she was so good. People trusted her completely. But Neka had a deep, rotten secret. Her kindness was a total lie. She only did it so people would respect her and give her free things. Inside her mind, she hated the villagers. She thought they were stupid and dirty. And her worst habits, Neka was a malicious thief and a cruel person when the sun went down. Because she lived alone, Neka used the cover of night to do terrible things. If a neighbor's goat wandered near her fence at night, she wouldn't guard it back. She would tie the goat up, beat it with a stick just to hear it cry, and then slaughter it to cook meat for herself. If she walked past a neighbor's farm in the dark, she would deliberately trample on their newly planted crops just to destroy their hard work. One evening, an old blind baker named Baba Obi was sitting by the roadside. He had collected a few coins in the small clay bowls. Neka was walking home from the market. She looked left, she looked right. The street was completely empty. Nobody was watching. With a wicked smile, Neka sneaked up, snatched the blind man's bowl of money, and kicked the old man into the gutter. Baba Obi cried out, bleeding from his knees. Who is that? Please, God is watching you. Neka laughed silently, covering her mouth, and ran into her house. She counted the coin and put them under her pillow. God is watching you, she whispered to herself, mocking the old man. God is in heaven, no, nobody saw me. That night, at exactly midnight, Neka woke up because her room felt unusually hot. She stood up to open her wooden window. As she passed by her full length dressing mirror, she stopped. The room was dark, lit only by the faint moonlight, but her reflection in the mirror looked wrong. In the mirror, the reflection of Neka wasn't standing still. It was smiling a white demonic smile that stretched from ear to ear. Nika rubbed her eyes, thinking she was dreaming, but the reflection suddenly stepped closer to the glass. Its skin began to peel off, revealing a black, rotting face underneath. Its eyes turned completely white. Niga gasped and tried to run away from the mirror, but her feet were glued to the floor. Suddenly, A voice echoed from inside the glass. It didn't sound like a monster, it sounded exactly like Neka's own voice, but twisted and malicious. Why are you running, Neka? The reflection whispered, tapping its long fingernail against inside the glass. Clink, clink, clink. In the daytime, you were beautiful marks for the village. But this rotting, ugly thing in the mirror, this is who you truly are when nobody is watching. And tonight, the mask come off permanently. Nneka watched in absolute horror as the reflection's hand physically pushed through the glass as if the mirror had turned into water. The reflection grabbed Nneka by her throat. Its grip was like burning iron. Nneka tried to scream for her neighbors, but no sound could leave her mouth. The entity slowly dragged Nneka towards the mirror. Nneka thrashed and fought, but she was powerless. Step by step, she was pulled into the cold, dark world inside the glass. At the same time, the rotten entity stepped out of the mirror, taking Nneka's place in the real world. As the entity adjusted its dress, its skin smoothed out, its eyes became normal, and it took on Nneka's beautiful daytime appearance perfectly. From inside the dark, suffocating space of the mirror, the real Nneka banged her hands against the glass, crying and begging. The entity turned around, looking at the real Nneka trapped inside the mirror, and smiled softly. Don't worry, the fake Nneka said. I will continue your good work in the village, but I will also continue your midnight activities. The next morning, the fake Nneka walked out of the house. She smiled at the neighbors, helped an old man carry his water pot, and sang beautifully at the market. Everyone praised her as usual. Nobody knew that the real Nneka was trapped inside the mirror in her bedroom, but the torment was just beginning. Every time the fake Nika came home at night, she would bring the mirror into the center of the room. The real Nika had to sit inside the dark glass and watch the monster use her body to commit horrific, disgusting crime. Even worse, whenever the fake Nika did something wicked in the dark, a part of the real Nika's body inside the mirror would break or begin to rot. 1 month later, the fake Neka accidentally dropped the dressing mirror while moving it. The glass shattered into a thousand pieces on the floor. The moment the glass broke, the real Neka was released, but she wasn't human anymore. Because of all the secret wickedness she had watched, her soul had become completely deformed. She emerged from the glass as a crawling, faceless spirit of darkness, doomed to wander the village bushes forever, crying in pain. The fake Neka simply bought a new mirror, smiled at her reflection, and continued living Neka's life. So, my people, this is a heavy warning for all of us. Your true character is who you are when you think nobody can see you. Many people are saints in public but demons in secret. They think because their parents, their pastors, or their friends cannot see them in the dark, they are safe. But the universe keeps a perfect record of your secret actions. Every lie you tell in secret, every small thing you steal when nobody is looking, and every cruelty you commit in hidden is building a monster inside your soul. And one day, that secret monster will break out and consume your life. Live a clean life, both in the light and in the dark, because the eyes of the spiritual world never blinks. And that is the end of the story. Thank you, guys. Hi guys, thank you so much for all your support. Thank you so much. All right, so we'll be moving to the story. Envy can destroy a person's peace. There is a dangerous disease that doesn't attack the body but the soul, and it's called envy. An envious person can have a good house, a good family, and food on their table, but they will never be happy. Why? Because they are too busy looking at their neighbor's plate. They burn with anger because someone else is shining. If you have ever felt a bitter jealousy in your heart, please listen to the story very carefully because envy doesn't just destroy relationships, it invites demons to eat your peace. In a peaceful village surrounded by big hills, there lived two young men named Kola and Taiwo. They were childhood friends and hunters. Kola was a regular hunter. He caught enough bushmeat to feed his mother and sell a little at the market. He had a simple, peaceful life. But Taiwo was different. Taiwo was a master hunter. He knew how to track animals. His arrows never missed, and the village traders always rushed to buy from him. Taiwo was becoming rich and highly respected. Instead of Kola to be happy for his childhood friend, a black poison began to grow in his heart. Every time the villagers shouted, Taiwo is the greatest hunter, Taiwo is the greatest hunter, Taiwo is the greatest hunter, Kola's chest would burn like fire. He began to hate the sound of Taiwo's laughter. He couldn't sleep at night. He would lie awake in the dark, biting his fingers, angry that Taiwo was progressing while it was just ordinary. Envy had taken away Kola's peace. He didn't enjoy his own food anymore because he was thinking about Taiwo's wealth. One evening, after a festival where Taiwo was given a medal of honor by the king, Kola couldn't take it anymore. He walked deep into the forest at midnight to a place where people said a dark spirit named the Whisperer lived inside a hollow tree. Kola stood before the twisted tree and cried out, I want Taiwo Lock to die. I want Taiwo's Lock to die. I want his peace to vanish. I want to be better than him. The wind blew fiercely, and a voice like dry leaves rubbing together came from the tree. I can give you what you want, the whisperer hissed. I can take away Taiwo's hunting skill and give them to you, but the price is your own silence. From tonight, you will never know quiet again. Kola was too blinded to by jealously by jealousy to think clearly. I don't care about quiet. Just make me greater than him, he screamed. The spirit laughed, a cold echoing sound. Go home. It is done. The next morning, everything changed. When Taiwo went into the forest, his bow snapped in his hand. Every animal ran away before he could even aim. For a whole week, the great Taiwo returned with nothing, looking confused and defeated. But Kola became a machine. He killed 3 deers on his first day. He brought back massive wild boars. The village stopped singing Taiwo's praise and began to sing for Kola. Kola was finally getting the fame he wanted. But that same night, the curse of the spirit began. When Kola lay down to sleep, he heard a sound. Drip, drip, drip. It sounded like water leaking from his thatched roof. He stood up with alarm, but the roof was completely dry. He lay back down. The sound changed. Now it was the sound of someone whispering right into his left ears. Taiwo is crying. Taiwo has no food. But what about tomorrow? What about if Taiwo finds a bigger animal tomorrow? Kola jumped up sweating. The room was empty. As the days went on, Kola's envy didn't die. It actually grew bigger. Even though Taiwo was now poor, Kola was still terrified that Taiwo might make a comeback. And because of that constant jealousy, the noise in his head became louder. By the second week, Kola couldn't hear the normal word anymore. When people spoke to him at the market, all he could hear was a loud, chaotic buzzing of flies inside his ears. When he tried to eat, the whispers in his brain would say, "This food is good, but Taiwan might buy a better one next year if you don't kill him." He couldn't sleep for even 10 minutes. His eyes became bloodshot, heavy, and sunken into his skull. He became paranoid, thinking everyone was plotting to help Taiwo take back his position. One night, driven completely mad by the lack of sleep and the endless screaming voices in his head, Kola took his hunting knife and ran into the forest to find the spirit. "Take it back! Take the log back!" Kola screamed, pounding his head against the hollow trees until blood gushed out. "I have no peace. The noise won't stop. Please, give me back my quiet." The tree split open. A massive shadowy creature with hundreds of glowing red eyes crawled out. "The noise is not from me, Kola." The monster laughed, its voice vibrating in Kola's bones. "The noise is your own envy. You gave it a home in your heart and now it has grown too big for your body. It has eaten your peace and now it will eat you." The creature didn't touch Kola. Instead, Kola's own shadow rose from the ground. The shadow wrapped around Kola's throat and began to squeeze. Kola tried to fight his own shadow, but you cannot defeat a darkness that belonged to you. The next morning, Taiwo, who had humbly accepted his new poor life and was peacefully collecting firewood, found Kola's body in the forest. Kola was dead, sitting against the tree, but the terrifying thing was his hands. Kola had used his own long hunting arrows to pierce through his own ears, shoving them deep into his brain. He had literally destroyed his own hearing just to try and stop the voices of envy inside his head. His face was contorted in absolute madness and agony. He died trying to escape from his own mind. So, my people, let this story enter your hearts deeply. Envy is a structure that you build with your own hands, but it is a prison you can never escape from. When you focus your life on blocking another person's sun, you end up living in total darkness. Another man's success does not mean your failure. Celebrate with those who are winning and focus on your own lane, because the moment you allow jealousy to dictate your actions, you are opening the door for a spiritual noise that no doctor, no money, and no herbalist can ever cure. Be content with what you have, work hard, and guard your peace of mind. It is worth more than gold. And that is the end of this story. Thank you so much, guys, for all your engagement. Thank you, guys, for the likes. Thank you for listening and watching. I believe we are going to get something in this from this story. I have one more story before I end the live stream, and I believe this is going to be the fourth story I have told today. So I titled the story Curiosity Without Wisdom Can Lead to Disaster. Our elders have a proverb: the bird that flies too close to a burning bush should not complain when its feathers catch fire. It is good to want to know things. It is good to ask questions. But there is a very thin line between wanting to learn and being dangerously noisy. When you poke your nose into dark corners just because you want to see what is inside, you forget that what you forget that whatever is hiding in that dark corner might be looking for a way out. Curiosity is a gift, but curiosity without wisdom is just a suicide mission. In the village of Omodi, there was a compound that had been locked for 50 years. It belonged to an old herbalist who died without any children. The walls were covered in thick thorny weeds, and the wooden gate was chained with an old rusted iron lock. The elders gave a strict law to every child in the village: never look through the gaps in that gate, never throw a stone inside, do not even stand near the shadows of that wall. Everyone obeyed except a young guy named Chuka. Chuka was the kind of person who always wanted to know everyone's business. He loved gossip, he loved secrets, and he loved proving people wrong. To Chuka, the elders were just old, fearful men who liked making up ghost stories to control the youth. Every time he walked past the locked compound, his brain would burn with questions. Why did they lock it? Why did the old man live inside? What if there are hidden gold or ancient artifacts in there? His friends warned him. Choka, the elder said the old man left something dangerous in there before he died. Leave it alone. Choka sneered. You people are too blind. How can a dead man harm a living person? I just want to see inside. Knowledge is power. He had the curiosity, but he completely lacked the wisdom to understand that some secrets are kept locked for a reason. One rainy afternoon, when the village was completely quiet and everyone was sleeping indoors, Chuka crept up to the old compound. He brought a heavy iron rod with him. He looked around. His street, the street was empty. He jammed the iron rod into the rusted padlock and pulled with all his might. With a loud echoing crack, the old chain snapped, the wooden gate groaned and swung open, releasing a blast of gold, dusty air that smelled like an open grave. Chuka smiled. He stepped inside the overgrown compound. The house was falling apart. In the center of the main room sat a dusty wooden table, and on top of that table was a small, beautiful carved clay pot with a heavy lid made of animal skin. The lid was tied down with 7 knots of black thread. If Chuka had wisdom, he would have seen those 7 black pots was as a warning sign and run away. But his curiosity was driving him mad. He wanted to know what was inside the pot. He took his pocket knife and sliced through the 7 knots. The moment the last thread was cut, the animal skin lid popped open by itself. Chuka held his breath and looked inside. The pot was completely empty. There was no gold, no medicine, nothing, just dark, empty space. Chuka burst into laughter. See? I told you! Ha 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 ha! Just an empty pot. Old people and their stupid lies, he said. He turned around to leave the compound, but as he reached the gate, he realized the sky had turned completely black. The rain had stopped, but the air was deadly still. Then he heard a sound behind him: tap, tap, tap. He turned around. A figure was standing in the doorway of the broken house. It looked like a little girl wearing a dirty white clothes. but her face was covered by long matted black hair. Chuka's heart skipped a beat. "Who are you? What are you doing here?" he asked, his voice trembling. The girl didn't answer. She slowly raised her head when her hair fell back. Chuka let out a scream of pure terror. The girl had no eyes. Where her eyes were supposed to be, they were just two empty holes overflowing with thousands of writhing black maggots. Her mouth opened, and a voice that sounded like a thousand dying souls came out. "Thank you, Chuka. For 50 years, I waited for someone foolish enough to cut the knot. The elders knew that what I was, so they stayed away. But your blind curiosity brought you right to me." Chuka turned and tried to sprint out of the compound, but the gate slammed shut by itself, locking him inside. The faceless girl didn't chase him. She just blew a cold breath into the air. Suddenly, Chuka felt a terrible itching sensation inside his ears and behind his eyes. It felt like something was crawling inside his skull. He fell to his knees, clawing at his own face, screaming in agony. The entity walked closer, her voice echoing directly inside his brain. "You wanted to know my secret, Chuka? Now you will carry it forever. The price of curiosity without wisdom is that you become the vessel for the very thing you wanted to find." The black maggot from the girl's face began to fall onto the ground, crawling rapidly toward Chuka's boots. They climbed, they climbed up his legs, entered his nose, his mouth, and his ears. Chuka thrashed on the muddy ground, choking on the black worms, feeling, feeling that, feeling them eat his brain from the inside out. He didn't die. The spirit kept him alive, so he could feel every single bite. 2 days later, Chuka's parents noticed he was missing. They called the village chief to search for him. When they walked past the old herbalist compound, they noticed the chain was broken and the gate was slightly open. The chief elder turned pale. "Oh no," he whispered. "Someone has opened the womb of the earth." The youth rushed into the compound with machetes and torches. They found Chuka sitting in the dirt in the middle of the yard. He was alive. He was smiling a blank, empty smile. His mother rushed to embrace him, crying, "My son, what happened to you?" But when Chuka looked up at his mother, the entire search party threw up their hands and scrambled backward in horror. Chuka's eyes were completely gone. His eye sockets were just empty, black holes packed to the brim with the thousands of crawling black maggots. He couldn't speak English or his native language anymore. Whenever he opened his mouth, the only sound that came out was a buzzing of millions of flies. Chuka had wanted to know the secret of the pot. Now he was completely insane. A living corpse used as a house for an ancient demon. The elders had to chain him up and lock him inside a room at the back of the village, where he sits in the dark today, scratching the walls and eating dirt. So, my people, let this story be a permanent boundary marker for your life. Curiosity is good, but without the wisdom to know when to stop, it will destroy you. Not every closed door needs to be opened. Not every secret needs to be uncovered. When leaders, elders, or boundaries warn you to stay away from certain places, certain lifestyle, or certain dark things, do not think you are too smart or too modern to obey. Some things are hidden to protect you, not to limit you. Keep your eyes on your own lane. Respect the warnings of those who went before you, and never let a foolish desire for knowledge lead you into a trap you can never escape from. Be wise, stay safe, and mind your business tonight. And that is the end of the story. Thank you so much, guys, for engaging. Thank you so much, guys, for all your engagements, the likes, everything. I really appreciate. I'm so happy for being here to support me. I'm so happy for you. Thank you, everyone, for support. Thank you. Remain blessed. As I'm going to end this life now, well, I have I have talked for over 40 minutes now, so I have to rest. See you guys tomorrow. Have a wonderful night, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Go ahead and watch all my videos, like and share. Thank you so much. I'm going to end this live now. Bye, guys.